Hello and welcome to this catch-up video, which I am going to just do off the top of my head with very few notes indeed, so bear with me. It will be a free-form experience rather than a scripted one, which some of you have said you prefer, so let's just do it, shall we? Right, as you can see before you, I have done another Wild Spirit revamp of a card. This is number 5. I was just really disappointed. I went to check how many I'd done and this is the 5th one. I thought there might be more than that. So 73 to go. But this is number 5 of my series of revamps. And as you can quite clearly see, it is the Sun card. Now I will show you the original Wild Spirit Sun card. Not that many differences, but there are some. Some of them are quite subtle. Okay, I'll just put it there so we can refer to it. That was a good start. Now, how can you not cough all day and then when you make a video you start to get all croaky? How does that happen? I don't know. Okay, let's just get on, shall we? Right, so one of the main changes is the figure. Now I had to improve the figure because, as I've explained over and over again, but you might be new to these videos, so I'll have to say it again, my style and my ability have changed enormously since this deck came out, and I wasn't happy with the figure. Actually, there was very little wrong with it, but it just didn't fit in with my way of doing things now. So when it came to revamping it, I just didn't feel comfortable replicating it exactly. I wanted it to be much more fluid, to blend in much more. In this version, I'll just quickly show you, then move on to the other one. Focus, focus. Yeah, her hair was quite sort of solid looking, even though it's flying out, it was quite solid looking. The fingers didn't, oh, well actually one was almost cut off here. I didn't like the way she was wearing a leotard. I wanted her to just look like her whole body was part of the suit, as it were, which we shall see now. Are you sure you like me doing these off the top of my head? Because I don't know, I've just come up with some weird rambly stuff, don't I? Anyway, so the figure is different. As you can see, now her hair flies out, or the figure's hair flies out to blend in with the sun's flames, and there is no structured leotard shape as such. She just looks like she is all one sort of fiery being, really. And the fingers blend into the sun's background there and here, and you can see her foot, or the being's foot. I'm not sure whether this is going to be a human form. I don't think it is. I think now it's going to be more of a sorry, really sorry. I think it's going to be more of a fire elemental rather than purely a human form, or a blend of both. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to be prescriptive. This is just how the figure came out. But anyway, you can see the foot much more clearly. And the face is nicer, I think, as well. Not quite so harsh. And now there is a suggestion of a fiery wing coming out here. Now, I put that in because when I came to redo this, I found that there was an area of the card that looked unbalanced, as in when there was no wing here, it didn't sit nicely for me. There was an area where there wasn't much going on, and in the service of the entire image, wanting it to be much more pleasing and much more balanced, I thought that worked well. Wasn't any particular intention in doing it, it just looks nice, and it fits in with the idea that this is a fiery elemental being rather than strictly a human being. And I did do some other things to balance out the card as well. In the original Exhibit A, you can see there are 2 bees. Now I wanted there to be 3 bees because of 3 being a traditionally magical number, and it seemed right that there were 3 bees on the main flowers. The flowers are pretty much the same, but improved, hopefully. So you've got 1 bee going that way, 1 bee here, and another bee on this one. This is a marigold or a calendula, and 2 sunflowers. And now we have the addition of a daisy, because I thought that also balance things out, but because, you know, it sort of balances out, echoes this side, it's nicely sort of proportioned. But the daisy is also the day's eye, which is symbolic of the sun, the day's eye with the glowing centre, the yellow centre. So that has a symbolic meaning and isn't just stuffed in there to fill a space, which I would never do. It all has to be relevant and add something to the overall image. I also changed the tortoiseshell butterfly, which in the original I didn't like so much because it's just straight on. It's not got any perspective to it. It doesn't look like it's moving anywhere. It's just a flat butterfly. It doesn't really look like it's flying. Nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine, but I like the idea of it looking like it was in motion and moving off rather than just being static. So now, as you can see, there's a little bit more detail to it. It looks more realistic, and it also looks like it is flying, or he or she is flying. So they are the main changes, but there's quite a few more subtle ones that you'll probably notice if you're familiar with the original. There's a lot more grass in the foreground because I had to factor in the border issue, because we're getting rid of the zigzaggy borders on the new deck and just having a borderless deck. So I have to factor in, that's why there's more sort of space where not a lot is happening, like all this grass down here, because there has to be that extra about 1/2 centimetre-ish border, because when the cards are created by me or published by somebody else, that will be lost in translation. It always is. You have to have a bleed edge around the edge, so that's why things are much more closely cropped in this one, because I lost a lot with the border that I put in. But this time I know a bit more about what I'm doing, so I have been able to allow for that. I've also changed the way the flames are extended with the sort of fluid energy coming off it. It's not quite so rigid as it was. There's no black lines. As I've told you before, I am not having these black lines around everything anymore, because that's just not what I do. It's not how I work anymore, and going backwards does not seem like a very... It's not right. It doesn't feel right to me, and I don't want to replicate something that I did so long ago exactly. I want to look like I've moved on, and that it reflects more of the style of the everyday enchantment deck without losing the essence of this deck, which is much more whimsical fairy tale element to it. I'm going to share this with you as well. Oh, before I do, yeah, there was something I used to do stylistically that I did decide to replicate in this one. I used to, if you can see the background at all here, if I go up, please focus for us, please. Right, if you see the sun's face there, there's speckles on it, and ditto in the background. If I just hold that there for a moment, don't know whether it's focusing or not. Anyway, I used to create backgrounds before I put the illustration on, and I would flick watercolour onto the background, and that's how I used to work. So I decided to carry that forward and to have a little bit of that in the new deck. It's not something I do anymore, but I think it worked really well with this card. You can see the watercolour. The colours pick up various colours from the sun and just add it into there, and on the sun's face as well. You can see that I've included those just so that it really does bring something of the original forward into this version. I'm not looking to break from it and to do something completely new. That's not the point. The point is to bring out this deck again, but in a better form, in an updated form with no borders. So now here's, oh, sorry. Why does this happen? There's like the spirit of tickly coughs descends upon me when I'm talking to you. I don't know why. Go away, be banished. Anyway, right. If you can see here, there's a bit of a, what's going on here? It doesn't look very good. I'll tell you what happened there. Sharing some of my ridiculousness, I got something stuck to the back of this piece of paper that I was working on, and I did not realise it was stuck to something, and I moved the piece of paper and it ripped a hole in it. And by that point I'd pretty much done you know, 90% of the illustration, and there's no way that I was going to get rid of it at that stage. So I just had to do a patch job on it, which really upset me, but it was my own stupidity that caused it, my own carelessness. So I only had myself to blame, so I just patched it up. And when I'm doing the final version of this, which will obviously have to be in a computer, a digital version, because that's how things get processed now. You don't send pieces of paper in to the printers or to the publishers or whoever. You have to send a digital version. So when that is being done, I will iron that out slightly. I don't intend to do masses of digital work to any of these pictures, because that is not how they were done originally. Everything in the original Wild Spirit deck was done purely as an illustration with no computer. I didn't even think I had a computer. I remember sending all these illustrations off to the original publisher, Llewellyn, as pieces of paper. And that's just how we worked then. It got sent off by FedEx and there it went. And bits of it didn't come back to me, or I've lost them, and this is part of why I'm redoing it, but also because it would be nice to have it in a more updated version without the borders, which people do not like. Unsurprisingly, that was a bad idea, but I live and learn. So what else can I tell you about this? Not a lot. I hope you like it. I'm just going to come out from it so you can have a proper look, because I'm quite aware that when I'm doing these videos I'm chopping bits off, because what I see through the viewfinder is not what you see finally, but I do my best. I do. So I hope you can see that, and I hope you like it. I hope that I've done it justice, and I hope that I have improved it. As ever, your feedback on that would be greatly appreciated. Everything that I do is for you, basically. So please let me know whether I'm doing a good job for you. This is what you want. Am I managing to keep the original essence of this deck? And is it getting better? Or do you prefer the original? I'd like to know either way, so don't be frightened of telling me. It all helps when I'm doing, I mean, this is only number 5, so when I come to do all the rest of them, I'd like to know how you're feeling about what I've done so far. Okay, and I've got my Everyday Enchantment Sun card here, because now I've done the Wild Spirit version, I will be doing a video about the Everyday Enchantment Sun card, so that we've got some continuity and you can compare between the two. I've got a few other things I want to say in this video. I will try not to be too verbose and lengthy about what I'm going to say, especially if I keep coughing. I hope I don't, or croaking or whatever. Yeah, I wanted to refer back first to the last video I did, which touched on the issue of bereavement, because it was the death card. And I don't want to labour the point or keep going on about it, but since I did that, not only have some people commented, thank you very much for that, and given me their thoughts on what I said, but also I've come across a couple of things in books that I just wanted to share with you. This happens pretty much every single time I make a video. Synchronicitously, things will come up in what I'm reading that will back up what I'm saying, or give me some extra to add to it. But before I just share with you what I found in a couple of books on the issue of bereavement, I just wanted to say, because I've done the death card last, and because we've talked about the bereavement issue, would it be appropriate for me to move on and discuss the 5 of Cups from the Everyday Enchantment deck? Because this quite clearly has a close relationship with the death card in that deck. Now, I didn't want to just skip and do some minors, because I am doing all the major cards first, as I am with the Wild Spirit Revamp, but you know, we don't have to be hard and fast, do we? We can, if it's appropriate, move to one of the minors just to cover that, because while I'm talking about it and it's fresh, perhaps that would be a good idea. What do you think? Would you like me to cover this? I don't want to have you think that I'm, you know, really labouring this point. But I do have quite a lot to say about it, and it is quite raw and fresh for me to talk about. But if you've had enough of this subject for now, just say, that's fine. But there again, you don't have to watch the video if I make it, so what are your thoughts on that? I think I might do it, but I'll leave it with you and see what you think. But okay, let me just read you a couple of things from the books I've been reading. The first one is from John Connolly's Night Music. I do like lots of dark stories. I have a very wide and varied reading list, and there are books all over where I'm living at the moment. They always are. I have books. So I'm just going to quickly tilt the camera up. Now I'm just going to quickly read from here for a minute because I just thought this was amazing. It's a fiction book, obviously. The character says, "Pain and loss are so strange, are they not?" And then she goes on to say, "When we talk about it, if we talk about it, nobody quite understands what we're saying, even when we're speaking to someone who's also living with such loss. It's as if we are speaking versions of the same language, but the most important words have slightly different meanings to each one of us. Everything's changed, hasn't it? It's just as you said, the world can never be the same as it was before." And that was the character talking about her loss and bereavement. And the next quote is from this marvellous book. Some of you may have come across this one. It's probably more likely you've read this one than the John Connolly book, because this is a lot more it's nature literature basically, and it was very popular, and it won the Samuel Johnson Prize for Non-Fiction in 2014, and it's by Helen Macdonald. So let's just read the quote, shall we? If I can find it. Okay. Okay, here's the word bereavement, or bereaved, bereft. It's from the Old English I'm going to show you this word because I don't think I can read it. Bereafan. Somebody can pronounce that better than me, but you can see it there. It's from the Old English bereafan, let's say, meaning to deprive of, to take away, to seize, to rob, robbed, seized. It happens to everyone, but you feel it alone. Shocking loss isn't to be shared, no matter how hard you try. Imagine, I said back then to some friends in an earnest attempt to explain. Imagine your whole family in a room. Yes, all of them, all the people you love. So then what happens is someone comes into the room and punches you all hard in the stomach. Each one of you, really hard. So you're all on the floor, right? So the thing is, you all share the same kind of pain, exactly the same, but you're too busy experiencing the total agony to feel anything other than completely alone. And that's what it's like. So those were two quotes that came up about bereavement. And again, I might move on and talk about this card next, but I'll leave that with you. So moving on from bereavement, got long before this video cuts off, so I shall be quick. I mentioned in an earlier video about cat cafes, and I said that I was not sure about them, that it didn't make me feel very comfortable, and that I might have to go and visit one to find out. Well, I don't have to, which I'm really glad about, because, again, synchronistically, somebody came, well, it came up in a conversation with somebody, and she was able to show me on her gadget that she had taken her daughter to the very cat cafe that I was concerned about. And she showed me and told me about how it operates and showed me the videos of the cats. And she explained to me that the cats in this particular cafe, you're not allowed to touch them. You can't pick them up. You can't disturb them, especially if they're asleep. You have to wait for them to come to you, and you can't overstimulate them or be invasive to them in any way. They've got places to hide in the cafe. There's holes, there's places they can actually literally disappear from you. There's loads and loads of stimulating things in there, and a great variety of cats. She showed me a Sphinx, which is the one without any fur. Ooh, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, there was a Sphinx, there was a Maine Coon cat, there was a Siamese, there was all sorts of cats in there, and they looked remarkably, is the word sanguine? Chilled out. They were completely at ease anyway. Nobody was bothering them. People were just being with the cats, and that was good to see. And the person that I was speaking to had a very, very positive view on what they'd experienced there and how respectful they were towards the cats. And the person I was speaking to is somebody who loves cats and has some of her own. So yeah, that was great. It was really good to hear that. And although I don't really want to go there myself, I still don't feel comfortable for myself being in there. I am very reassured to hear that. And I just thought I'd share that with you because it's something we talked about in a couple of videos. And I think they must have found the most sociable, laid-back cats in the whole area. Because lots of the ones I've met would not be at all impressed with that kind of setup, but it seems to be working for the ones that are in there. So good, good, good. So what's next after this video? Well, as I said, I might do the 5 of Cups. I am going to be doing my next Wild Spirit Revamp, which will be the equivalent of Judgment, this one here. And I've picked that purely because there isn't an horrendous amount of changes to be made. Some of them need quite a lot of work, some of the major ones, so this one wasn't too bad. So that's what I'm working on next, so expect that video soonish. I will be doing the Sun Everyday Enchantment one. My next video will be probably my Stonehenge Portal experience video, because I've been preparing for that. A lot of you have said that you want to, or some of you have said that you would like to hear about it. I'm very, very keen to share it. And also, I have been sent another book, lucky me, by Jill Smith, called The Gypsy Switch. This is newly out. Who could fail to be intrigued by this book just from the cover? Here is Jill with her son Taliesin, carrying a great hummock on her back, him on her front, with co-op bags. She walked around Britain like that. This is going to be a fascinating read. I was very fortunate to read the early versions of this book, but now it is in a beautiful new book, and I can't wait to share that with you. But it is a thick book, and I will have to take time to read it, but that will be coming up shortly, as they say. Have I covered everything today? I think so. I'll just leave you with this new revamp so you can compare and contrast a bit with the original before I close. Hope it's focusing. And thank you for watching. Thank you very much. I always, as you know, deeply appreciate your comments, your feedback, anything that you want to share with me. It's all wonderful. I'm probably going to have to cut back on the length of responses I give, because that's partly why it's taking me so long, because I feel it's very important to give you something back, because you've taken the time and trouble to comment, and you know, you've got busy lives, you've got all your own creative things to do. A lot of you are running your own YouTube channels, and you're still taking the time to comment to me. You know, thank you so much. So I do feel very, you know, that it's important for me to give you a very considered response, but it's taken me a long time because of my problems with my physical being that I do not want to go into, but they are making life is becoming more and more tricky in terms of writing and typing, especially typing. So I might just have to shorten my responses slightly. They will still be considered responses to what you're saying if you are generous enough to leave me some comments, but they might not be quite so lengthy, so don't take it personally. It's just that it will help me respond to you quicker if I'm not writing quite so much, and I know you wouldn't expect me to. Anyway, I'm going now before I get cut off. Thank you for watching. Loads of love as ever, and please join me again soon when there will be a variety of different videos. Okay, lots of love. Take care of yourselves and all other beings you encounter. Bye for now.